For some riders, the idea of taking a long motorcycle trip can be very paralyzing. Everything from the distance you travel to the places you stop, the things you see, and everything you pack can send some into a never-ending spiral of over-analyzing. In this video, I'm going to talk about the steps I take to avoid all of that and just have fun. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I take on a 9-day trip. I'm traveling about a total of 1,500 miles over 9 days, and I'm going light this time, and so I'm packing as lean as I can. And at the end of this video, I'll show you exactly what I'm taking, so stick around for that. When it comes to motorcycle trip planning, there are limits to what you can plan. In fact, if you try to plan for everything, you're basically setting yourself up for failure, because there's no way you can plan for everything. So there are limits to what you can plan. General Dwight D. Eisenhower once famously said, "In battle, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." I think the same holds true for planning a long motorcycle trip for much the same reasons. And that is because there is no way we can predict with certainty every element of a trip. There are simply too many things that we'll never know, such as weather, distractions, road conditions, traffic, and so much more. To try and plan for every possible scenario would be an exercise in futility. Try not to overplan. Keep it flexible and be open to spontaneous detours and unplanned stops. Because once paralysis by analysis sets in, your dream road trip could turn into a giant mental roadblock. Step number 2, embrace a good enough mindset. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Stop chasing the ideal road trip and accept a good enough one. When I take a trip, I like to think of it as a series of my typical 2 or 3 hour daily rides just strung together. And the only difference is that my distance from the starting point grows with each successive ride. Prioritization is what matters most, and don't sweat the small stuff. Unlike 30 or 40 years ago, things like cell phones, same-day delivery, and in general, the overly connected lifestyle we're in, means that anything we forgot or need during a trip is only a few clicks away if we absolutely need it. Hey, let's face it, a cell phone and a credit card are probably the 2 greatest implements of motorcycle travel in the 21st century. And this doesn't mean you shouldn't plan carefully what you take on a long trip. But it does provide a lot of comfort knowing that when you get to your destination and realize you forgot something that you absolutely need, you can quickly get a replacement nearly same day in all but the most remote of places. For my third piece of advice, I would say, if I were starting out again, definitely start small. Set your sights to an achievable level. If you're new to traveling on a motorcycle, make the first trip you take an overnighter. Make it 125 miles over the weekend for just a one-night stay. You don't want to make it so long that it complicates things. You want to go out there, enjoy the ride. Think about that. The ride really is the destination, and if you're not enjoying that while you're taking your trip, then you're over your head. So definitely want to make the ride is the destination, and if 125 miles sounds about right, then just do that. This next piece of advice is one that probably was the hardest for me to come to grips with, and that is to let go of your inner perfectionist. Quit overthinking it. I mean, you just, at some point, you just throw the stuff on the motorcycle and go. Get out there and go and experience this. You know, sometimes you just have to embrace the moment. Spontaneity is really hard for people that are, you know, perfectionists and analyzers that have to have everything just so. But there's something to be said about spontaneity and just going out there and doing it, because sometimes the best trip you will ever take could, when you're in the midst of it, look like the worst. You know, if everything's going wrong, you know, every road you want to take is closed or there's traffic on it or whatever. But, you know, eventually you'll get through the trip and you'll look back on it, and you might find that some of the best moments you had were the ones where you did something spontaneous, where you did something unplanned. And you need to get used to that and embrace that, because that is the kind of thing that makes, for me, motorcycle travel unique. And so, yeah, just always think about embracing spontaneity. In the beginning of this video, I talked about how plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And that brings me to the number 5. And the reason that this is so important, because it differentiates what plans are and what planning is. Plans are the final product of planning. It's when you boil everything down, you know, when you analyze what you're going to take, what you're going to do, the routes, where you're going to stay, where you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, all that stuff. And you boil it down into an absolute plan. You still have all that thought process back here. But let's say you're taking this trip and, you know, you start to run into problems and you start to go off rails. That is where plans are useless. And that is where you fall back on your original planning. And so my 5th piece of advice is to be able to spot when to ditch the plan. Now this one is real important, because, you know, a lot of times, you know, like for me, when I'm taking a trip, if I've got, you know, a leg of the trip that's supposed to take 2.5 hours and I'm at 2 hours and 10 minutes and I'm 55 minutes away, you know, I know that I'm not going to finish that plan. And it's important to understand that. It's important for me to say, okay, don't rush, that you're not going to speed up and make up that time, you know, or like, you know, maybe if I've had to take a detour, you're not going to get back on that route. So be able to know at that point, ditch the plan, and don't have this mindset of, I've got to get there. I've got to follow this plan, because that is the kind of thing that will lead you into just bad places. So, you know, and I call it, in aviation, they call it get there-itis. It kills a lot of pilots. But I think it ruins a lot of motorcycle trips too. And take it from someone who has suffered from get there-itis. In fact, at the end of this video, I'm going to talk to you about this trip that I'm taking and some of the plans that I had and how I've ditched those, and I'm going a different direction. So yeah, number 5, be able to spot when your plan is coming apart. Push it aside, fall back on what you know, fall back on the other stuff that you were thinking of, and create a new plan on the spot. And that is something that I would say is very high on the list. This trip I'm about to take, I originally took last year. When I went last year though, I was towing the trailer. I did all the off-roads, you know, I was never on the interstate. And basically I averaged about 40 miles an hour because I was through all these little small towns. And the total trip time was around 16 hours. And while that wasn't so bad, it was because the temperatures were in the 80s. And so in this trip, I'm gonna have to take my own advice and ditch the plan. And so I've decided to go with some bags on the bike and travel light so I can get out on the interstate, and knock down some miles in between the sites that I want to see and some of my stopping places. So that is the plan for this trip. All right, first, this is just my rain suit. All that's in there is the rain suit, so that's self-explanatory. In this bag, this is the bag that goes on the passenger seat. In this, I pretty much carry all my camera gear that's going to go. I'm not taking the big camera, but I'm taking a small point and shoot. And I've got my 2 GoPros that I film with. They'll be on the bike, so this will be empty and I can put more stuff in here. But in this bag, I primarily carry every electronic device, because I also have a rain bag that goes over this, and this will stay absolutely dry. But you know, everything from chargers, microphones for the cell phone, SSD cards, everything, because I am filming on this trip. But everything electronic based goes in here. And like I said, I actually have some room left over when I'm done, so there's plenty of room in that. This is the bag that sits on top of the bundle of camera gear and rain, and I just call this my quick access. So if I want to wear a pair of sunglasses when I get off the bike, I've got them in here. I've got a few little quick access things. I've got a flashlight, a knife, I've got a lighter, some paper towels. I'll have a spray bottle for the windshield, extra Velcro, a flashlight, scissors. This is the rain bag that will, or the rain cover. It'll go over the entire top section and keep all of this dry. I also have some spare duffel bags. If I ever need that, I can take that, fill those up, and strap that on as well. So that is what all of this is. And then all that's left is what's in these bags. And for the most part, what I carry in here is just clothes and the overnight stuff. And I'll show you in here, I've got some extra room. In the right one, I have a one pair of jeans, one pair of shorts, pair of swimming trunks, socks, you know, underwear, all that stuff. Got a pair of shoes. And in the right side here, I've got shirts, and I also have, you know, all my overnight stuff. Basically, you know, because I'm traveling in the middle of summer, I don't need a lot. I'm going to be at a place where I can wash clothes and stuff, so really I'm carrying the bare minimums. Hey guys, I want to thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for subscribing, for those of you that have, and for those of you that haven't, please think about it. If you like my videos, please think about giving me a thumbs up. And again, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video.